Alright, here's the image to the video, and I'll probably leave the video in the description box. But it's a video where Michael Eric Dyson is doing what he does best. He's talking real fast, real smooth, and rhyming a little bit, but he really don't be saying shit. He's doing that right now. But this is a video where he talks about, you know, why do poor white people in red states vote for Republican when that's against their best interests? They should be voting over here with the Democrats. And I always thought this situation was interesting because I still want to know what specifically what policy would benefit them that black people are voting for them that have evidence to say, well, we've benefited from that policy too, so you should come over here and vote with us because you're poor too, and black people are poor. So I don't get that. One thing that's also interesting is that back in '94, this is off topic a little bit, in that second election for the Clintons, they needed to appeal to those voters. So today we're criticizing Trump for appealing to those voters, but in '94, Bill Clinton won the White House the second time around because he needed those voters. So the whole '94 crime bill was them saying to those redneck poor white folks like, yo, we could be tough on crime. We'll penalize black people worse than we penalize you guys because you're poor too and you got some of the same things going on in your community, but we're not going to blame you, we're going to blame black people. So they got the vote with that tactic or whatever, but that's a different video. But anywho, so again, I'm trying to understand this argument because we like to get in these moral arguments all the time, and it's like, you know, you poor people should come over here and vote with us, but we don't have anything tangible to show you why you should do that because you know, Democrats have just been great for black people, right? But one of my arguments after watching this video, because they're saying that, you know, these people are voting against their own interests, how do black people vote against their own interests? And I'm gonna give you a list of things. I got like 3 of them off the top of my head. I'm gonna talk about one now. This is the first one. I should have did this a long time ago because the election's like 2 weeks, but it doesn't matter anyway, so we're still gonna vote against our own interests. One of those things is immigration. Well, more in particular, because the media likes to mix it up and play back and forth. It's illegal immigration in particular. But for black folks to vote democratically, especially in this particular election, because the DNC has made illegal immigration a part of their platform, you're voting, black folks are voting against their own interests. And I'm gonna kind of, you know, make the case for it in this video and explain. All right, so this situation happened a few years ago. This happened during the Obama administration. I don't know if this was like 2010 or something like that. I remember when it went viral on YouTube. But this lady goes into her rant, basically pointing out how we taking resources, billions of dollars, to house and feed and clothe and educate the children of illegal immigrants that ain't supposed to be here. And she makes that point very, very well. It was a sad, sad day that day. But anyhow, I'm going to talk again, too, about the Syrian refugees and what has happened like a week ago with them little ungrateful bastards. Like, yo, like, the audacity of these little fools. But anywho, in this little clip, she is going to go in and go ham and point out how these dollars should be used for American citizens, not for people, little Ilian and little, I don't know, Allah. It's not for them. We shouldn't be bringing them over here. And I'll talk about them again later because, again, these little Syrian refugees just went off.
Department of Homeland Security toured the old Terrell Middle School, considering it to possibly be a holding location for an unknown number of illegal immigrant children. No decision has been made yet for this location, but one resident who said her kids have gone without nothing, have had nothing for years, she says she is furious.
It's not right. Now billions of dollars want to be borrowed from the White House to help feed and house them. Where the kids here in our country? Not just in this neighborhood, but in our country. All these kids, really? Why can't they go back? I'm sorry that the parents are in poor living conditions or surroundings or whatever's going on out there. I don't care. I care about what's going on right here in my own backyard, my neighborhood. Am I the only one in this community that's out here that watches the news this morning? Oh my God. I feel alone right now in this, and I'm very saddened by it.
All Americans, not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country, are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country. The jobs they hold might otherwise be held by citizens or legal immigrants. The public service they use impose burdens on our taxpayers. That's why our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders more by hiring a record number of new border guards, by deporting twice as many criminal aliens as ever before, by cracking down on illegal hiring, by barring welfare benefits to illegal aliens. In the budget I will present to you, we will try to do more to speed the deportation of illegal aliens who are arrested for crimes, to better identify illegal aliens in the workplace as recommended by the commission headed by former Congresswoman Barbara Jordan. We are a nation of immigrants, but we are also a nation of laws. It is wrong and ultimately self-defeating for a nation of immigrants to permit the kind of abuse of our immigration laws we have seen in recent years, and we must do more to stop it.
One more point I forgot to make as an introduction. A point again is that I don't see any specific policies that black Democrats can say, yo, come over here, poor white people, because the Democrats got us and we've benefited from this and you can too. But one thing that's interesting is that the data says, and go look it up, is that poor white people, their children do better education-wise than middle-class black folks. So again, like, it really perplexes me when I hear this argument from, oh, why won't them poor white folks just come over here and vote with us? But anywho, what you just saw was Bill Clinton back, I think 93, 92, whatever, I'm not sure. And he's pretty much saying the same things, more politically correct, I'll say, because he's a politician, he knows how to say it, unlike Trump. He's pretty much saying the same thing about illegal immigration. But the one thing that's interesting, because this chick tried to go at me back and forth on Facebook about, because she saw this tape and she knew people were using it to say, well, Trump said the same thing, so how was it bad now, but it wasn't bad then? And she tried to make up some BS narrative about people changing and policies or whatever. Here's the thing, though. This is something that Bill Clinton said back then, over 20-something years ago, and this is something that Trump is saying now, 20-something years later. But the funny thing is, Obama's the only one who actually did that. Obama has deported more illegal immigrants than the last 4 presidents combined. So Obama's administration has actually done what Clinton said and what Trump has said. Obama's the only one that's actually did it. So I find it interesting, again, that the rhetoric from Trump is worse than the actual policy that Obama actually did. He kicked a lot of people home. Just make that make sense for me. I just don't get it. Alright, here, this prompted me to want to do this video more than anything when I first saw it a couple months back. This was like about to be a Trump rally, and you had a bunch of little Bernie Sanders, Ilian Gallus supporters sitting out there giving Trump the finger, saying nothing and whatnot. Great parenting, folks. And what got me, though, we can't see it in this image here, but you will see when I play the whole clip, is all these black people were out there protesting with them as well. And it reminded me of something Tyreek said, that black people tend to be mascots for other groups. And those are facts. We tend to let everybody else in and let everybody else participate, and then we end up not getting anything, and they all move forward. It just happens. We know that policy-wise, in the Civil Rights Act, black folks didn't just eat off that. White women ate off that. Disabled member people, aka retarded folks, they also had legislation inside of that bill that benefits. So as a point that Dr. Michael Eric Dyson did make when he was on the Breakfast Club, is that when you do help black people first, other people get to eat too, not the other way around. But anyhow, this video was really, really annoying because they are your competition. I'll put it like this. Back when black people in the 60s and 40s and 50s, whatever, and even in the late 30s, black people were in the South dominating the construction businesses, whatever. They were the carpentries, they fixed all those things, they had those skills. And a lot of those brothers moved up north to come because they had the economic booms and all those things happened up in the 1950s. And a lot of those black men were undercutting white men. So a lot of people like to romanticize unions. I'm not for union, I'm not against union. Some are good, some are bad. It is what it is. I look at each situation as a different case, but I don't romanticize unions. And one of the problems, or one of the things that these white men did when they saw these black men were coming from the South up north to compete with their jobs, they started unions. So they didn't just greet them and say, oh, over here, come take our jobs. They moved the goalposts. And they made restrictions and rules, and you got phrases like unskilled workers. so that, you know, in order to work this job, you had to have this certification, this and that. These people did not have the education; they just had the skill. So I'm just saying that's an example of what happens when you're dealing with competition. You don't embrace them. You don't support policies that's going to make more of them than you. You cock block. But apparently black folks don't know how to do that. We're on some kumbaya, we love the world. And again, everybody else gets to eat at our expense. It doesn't make any sense. Alrighty, so Melissa Alexander did a debate with, I guess, Tommy Lee Peterson or whatever, and they were talking about Jim Crow and all other stuff, but one of the arguments he was making was the typical conservative talking point of, you know, they're taking all your jobs. And again, if you break it down in context, that is true, but it has to depend on the state that you're talking about, because overall, no blacks and Mexicans or illegal immigrants are not in the same spaces sometimes. Melissa Alexander tried to dumb it down and act like, well, why would we want black people to take these low-level garbage jobs? But she's ignoring the fact that all these jobs aren't low-level. Some of these are good jobs in construction, building houses, doing roads, building, you know, things of that nature. A lot of these Mexicanos are undercutting black men, especially in places like Chicago, Texas, pretty much any border state. Also in the Carolinas, one of my homies, his pops got a house built in South Carolina. The house costs like $250,000 to build. The house is worth $1 million now because it's like in an affluent neighborhood or whatever and whatnot. But he went to the Mexicanos to build his house, so it is what it is. But anyhow, I'm gonna just give you a personal example, right? And this is not even affecting particular examples about a white dude. I remember back in 2008 when a lot of people were, you know, worried about getting laid off and all that sort of stuff. And I actually did after a job of 10 years. And I was talking to this other white guy in the gym he was a teacher, but he wasn't teaching at a traditional school. He taught more so bad kids and stuff like that. Like, it was like a school for people to learn other trades and other things too. Even adults can go there as well. But he had finally got laid off, and I had met back up with him because I hadn't been going to the gym at that time for a minute because I had switched my shift. I had a different job, and we meet back up, and I don't know what it was about this time of the year because everybody was talking about going into CO, becoming a cop, or a sheriff. Like, everybody was like, yo, forget these 9 to 5s. We want the 20 and done. So they were all hopping on the police exams and the sheriff exams and the CO exams, whatever. All these white dudes were doing that in my gym. And but he was I guess he didn't want to do that. He wanted to continue to teach, but he was on his 13th year, I think, too, to get his seniority or whatever it is. I forgot what it's called, where you can't be fired with a teacher. But he was working on that, and apparently he ended up getting laid off before that happens. But he was teaching, you know, he found some part-time gigs, whatever, to hold him over, whatnot. But this dude ended up going to Vegas. I'm gonna get back to that. So obviously, this is about black folks and how we vote against our interests, but yes, it is also true. The statement is if white folks get a cold, black folks get the flu. So I know for a fact there's a lot of sisters in early child education and things of that nature who want to be teachers. And because of not just this situation, but because of the bureaucracy and the timing and all the other dumb stuff and all that, it's hard to become a teacher and get in permanently here, period. So a lot of these folks go to Atlanta, which I don't know why we keep going to Atlanta. I don't know why black folks go to Atlanta. It's full. They can't fit no more people to stop. But that's one of the places that we typically like to go. The Carolinas is one, like I mentioned before. Sometimes Virginia is one as well. And sometimes Baltimore, but I don't think so much last in a couple of recent years. Those are for more really affluent sisters or people in general who are in certain fields. They go to the DMV area. But point being is that it's hard, period. Like, that's just the reality. Most people get their degrees in education in Cali and New York, and they leave and go to a red state. That's just what happens because there's no jobs in blue states anymore. But anywho, so they go down south, whatever. But this is the point, though. So Governor Cuomo makes this proposal to give illegal immigrants the ability to teach in New York State public schools. Keep that in context. So the old boy who went down to, he had to go to Vegas to work. It worked out with his schedule because their school system is on a different schedule than ours up here. So he was able to fly down there for a couple months, teach a whole year, I guess, and then come back up here and chill with his dad or whatever, take care of him, and then go back. Like, you know, I don't know, they had like a different schedule. But you know what he taught when he was down there? He was teaching the children of illegal immigrants English and social studies. How the fuck does that work? New Yorkers can't get jobs teaching in the state that they were born in and lived in and went to school and pay taxes in. They got to go all the way across the country to Vegas to do it. Meanwhile, you want him to teach the children of illegal immigrants, but his job is being proposed to be taken from him by an illegal immigrant.
New profession available to New Yorkers who grew up as undocumented immigrants: teaching. The Board of Regents voted to allow licensing applications from immigrants who were brought to the U.S. as children. That change takes effect on June 1st.
The group that is most isolated, most affected by it, and the evidence that we adduced before the commission shows that among those groups are Black Americans. This year, again, as I said, we'll be examining that, but one of our most recent hearings was on the effect of illegal immigration on Black wage and employment levels, and the evidence that we gathered shows that unequivocally the wage and employment levels of Black Americans are disproportionately adversely affected by illegal immigration, particularly when it pertains to the effect on Black males. It should be noted, I think, that the witnesses that appear before the commission were experts and scholars on immigration that spanned the ideological spectrum. And while they may have disagreed with respect to policy and maybe matters of degree, every single witness before the commission agreed that illegal immigration has a decidedly negative impact on the wage and employment levels of Black Americans, particularly Black males. And the evidence shows that the reason for this is actually pretty basic. Black Americans, especially Black males, are disproportionately concentrated in the low-skill labor market and are disproportionately more likely to have no more than a high school diploma. Likewise, illegal immigrants, disproportionately concentrated in the low-skill labor market, disproportionately more likely to have low levels of academic achievement, and these two groups compete with one another in the low-skill labor market. The competition is often most fierce in those industries in which Blacks have traditionally and historically had high concentrations of employment, such as hospitality, service, construction, agriculture, and Blacks very often lose out in this competition to illegal immigrants for a variety of reasons that are self-evident. Certain employers prefer to hire illegal immigrants. As Professor Vernon Briggs of Cornell School of Industrial and Labor Relations noted, it's not because low-skilled American workers, regardless of race, are unwilling to perform such jobs. It's that they're unwilling to do such jobs at the cut-rate wages and sometimes substandard working conditions tendered to illegal immigrants, a cohort which is unlikely, highly unlikely, to then go and complain about those conditions to OSHA, EEOC, or the Wage and Hour Division of the Department of Labor. And we see that this competition is most pronounced in large metropolitan areas. The effect, the deleterious effect of illegal immigration on the low-skilled American worker is most severe during the current economic stagnant times. Since the beginning of the 2008 recession, there has been an increase of 2 million working-age Blacks in the population. However, during the same period of time, the number of Blacks currently in the workforce was also 2 million less, so that there's been no net increase in the number of employed Blacks, despite a substantial increase in the Black population. And what's curious about that, though, is during the same period of time, 4.4 million more foreign-born workers were employed in the United States. And this has substantial negative sociological implications also. Unemployment is linked to higher incarceration rates. Both are linked to lower levels of family formation. Indeed, research shows that immigration accounts for 40% of the 18-point percentage decline in black employment levels in the last several years. An 18-point decline is hundreds of thousands of blacks without jobs. In addition to depressing black employment levels, the evidence that we adduced shows that illegal immigration, frankly, any low-skilled immigration, tends to drive down the wages of jobs that are available for black Americans. One study, in addition to studies that we've reviewed from Dr. Borjas, an economist from the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta showed that for the increase in the undocumented worker population, there has been a $960 reduction in the wages of the average Georgian worker from between 2000 and 2007. Mr. Chairman, it's respectfully submitted that the massive influx of immigrants, both legal and illegal, has been demonstrably bad for the employment prospects of low-skilled Americans generally, black Americans particularly, especially black males. And continued failure to address this issue is not without profound and substantial cost.
Comes on people and people say, hey, really, there really are a finite amount of jobs. You know, jobs aren't everywhere. So just because a person says they want to stop immigration doesn't mean they're automatically a person who hates Mexicans. Like, we've been put in this position. Like, people are desperate. So don't just be so quick to label that, to just throw it out there. You must be a racist. You must be, you must hate. No. That's what, because that's kind of what the elite want us to do. You want us to look at this white guy and say he's a racist. He's automatically a racist because he's opposed to immigration. No, he want a job. You know what I mean? These white people realize that their quality of life has gone down. Like, our quality of life been down. But they just realize America ain't my America no more, and they're shocked. It ain't never been our America, but they realizing something, and they're shocked. And we have to work through this without being like, you're automatically a racist. You're automatically, some of them are, sure enough. You see them calling the N word, and you see them calling names. Those people are racist. Other people are frustrated.
So that was a snippet of a video that Dr. Boyce Watkins did with Yvette Carnell. Prior to this, to give it a little bit of context, Yvette did a video with this dude called Pascal. He's even more of a leftist than she is. And he was making a point in the case that black people, in spite of acknowledging that Mexican immigrants have not been allies to black people, and they haven't shown that they could be trusted, that in spite of all that, black people still should take the moral ground and still support the Democratic Party, and i.e. support illegal immigration. In this video right here, though, Dr. Boyce and Yvette goes in. She kind of played devil's advocate, or she kind of just like let him speak and give his points. She didn't really challenge him a lot, but she does do this video with Boyce where she does go in, and I agree with some of the points she made. And to belabor the point, I ain't got to make my video that much longer. I'm going to leave a link to their full videos. You should check it out, because she makes the case that black people have no moral obligation. And in another video before they did this one, Boyce, where he was kind of being petty, just instigating the whole situation with Tyreek and the Boule Bird, a.k.a. Roland Martin, got any more of them questions for down in Brazil? He made the point, too, it's cool to have allies and work with people, but as history has shown us, we just be letting other folks get a pass and be like cheering, and like the little black kids sitting on the sideline, protesting with them foul mouth illegal children of illegal immigrants. But anywho, I'm gonna leave a link to that video. But I got one more point to address before I get off this illegal immigration thing, and why it is not in your best interest as a black American to support it. Is it possible that you might need to be voting with them poor white rednecks in agreement on not letting people who don't supposed to be here come here? Damn, so I could actually go on and on and on and drop so many more clips or whatever, but to wrap this up pretty soon, Basically, illegal immigration or immigration, because let's keep it 100. A lot of people, I just gave you the example of how it's affecting teachers in New York. So people think, well, it's not my job, it's not going to hurt me, I'm not low skilled or whatever. Not so much, because with legal immigration, Habib will do your computer science job that you start off making 55, 60 for. He'll do it for 45. But anywho, we talking about legal immigration though. But I remember listening to one of Prince Solomon's videos back before he got castrated, and he was talking about how, because I think he lives in Texas, or that's where they're at, or Houston or whatnot, and he was talking about working with these Mexicans and whatnot, and how they busting their ass, they working these factory jobs, the ones I guess that are decent still paying, and they put in their 50, 60 hours of work a week, and he said this dude was like, oh, before I drop you off, I gotta go drop off this key. So not only are they killing the competition for the few factory jobs that are left in the country, but they also killing the competition for the illegal drug game. These cajonas is taking over the coke game too. So let's go look at LA for a minute. And this brother right here is gonna go in, and we're gonna wrap it up with that. But he breaks down what's going on in LA, and it's odd that this is not making national news on how black folks are being, I mean, y'all talking about being gentrified by weirdo white folks and gay liberals. In LA, black folks have been excommunicated from that city. The Mexicanos took over, and it's theirs now. And they didn't take it, I mean, they took it by force. And again, I was talking to a female friend who lives in Santa Monica, but she does not live in LA. But she didn't even know what was going on over there with the blacks and the Mexicans and the illegal immigrants and the cartels and the gangs and whatnot. It's pretty bad over there. But I'm going to let this brother finish it up for you and tell you how he really feels. But no, voting for Democrats in particular this election cycle, because we know before, like I showed you, that once upon a time, illegal immigration wasn't a part of the Democratic platform, because Bill Clinton was speaking against it just like Trump is now. But now they took it upon their platform, and black people look dumb as fuck fighting for illegal immigration and standing by the side, because it is your competition. They are not your friends. It ain't nothing about, hey, it's just business, baby. They are competing with you for limited opportunities. And the data says that their existence in this country affects you. Oh, I forgot. I got something too after this brother talks too about them Syrian immigrants.
The black elected officials refuse to address the problem. My own congressman refuses to address the problem. And I think the problem is black folks see all minorities as allies. And this is not the case. These people are not here for our common good. They're here for their own good. Where I don't have any ill will towards anybody, I also want to look out for my race. I'm a black American. I've never used a hyphen. But I will refuse to turn my back on my race and see what's going on in South Central to my people and let these people come in here and just take over. I'm not going to sit back and watch it. And I think it's a terrible thing, a horrendous thing for anybody to see this going on and say, well, he's a minority like me, so I won't speak up. I don't care where he comes from. The key to this whole thing is stop the denial, stop the alliances of, in other words, he's a minority like me, so I can't speak up against him. If this was white folks committing these lynchings to us in South Central, what's going on, there would be an outrage in this country. We have had firebombs thrown through windows. We have had people's cars burned in the driveway because they happened to move into the wrong communities. We had a lady who moved to East LA, came to the state from the South, not knowing what East LA was. It was an all-Hispanic community. She wasn't there one day. We had another man who was burned out of his house in Torrance last year. We had 5 murders in Hawaiian Gardens just because the people were black. This would not be tolerated if this was white on black crime. But the fact that these people come here, and it's the numbers, sir, it's the numbers. They come here in the numbers, they build up the Hispanic community, and they get this sense of power against us. And there are race riots in the schools every day in Los Angeles. It never makes the media. The black kids are being run out of the schools every day and told to go back to Africa. It never makes the media. We are having people who are being discriminated against on every avenue of society, economic,
schools, even in our prisons now. They have drawn lines, and our prisoners in California are being beat and harassed and raped by Hispanic gang members who recently arrived here because of the numbers. My answer to you, sir, would be we don't need any new laws. Enforce the ones we got.
What he said, really, really, really what he said. Think about that. This stuff doesn't make national news, what's going on in LA right now. It's terrorism. We would not accept it if it was white folks doing it. It would be a million articles about how in certain parts of the country it's getting gentrified or whatever. We got to talk about that too later on. But it's popping off crazy in LA right now. And it goes nowhere. It's funny how everything I'm saying came from the top of my head before I listened to these clips. And they're saying the same things. So it's like the information is not lost. It's not hidden. Some of these videos are from years ago. Some of these videos are current events. And they're all saying the same thing. That doesn't help. So why are black folks voting against their own interests and supporting illegal immigration? I don't know. Don't make sense. So what you see here is a video short clip of where the Syrian refugees were dumped. It's really nasty and disgusting, and nobody should live in these conditions. What I find is interesting, though, is that before the Syrian refugees got here, there were black people living here too. So that did not make the news. That did not get anybody's attention. That was not a concern that the media shared. But the Syrian refugees, these people who should not be here, but in context, I will say, Obama and Hillary are responsible for what's going on in their country, so they do owe them something. What, I don't know, but it is their fault. Taking them here and throwing them in a condition like that, I don't think that helps. But that's a point to be made, that this place has existed for a while. And you have black people living in these horrible conditions, but it's not been on the news. No one cared. But the Syrian refugees complained and said, yo, this shit is terrible. The gunshots and stuff that's going on reminds me of my home country. We got bed bugs and roaches going on. Like, this is nasty. We want to get the freak out of here. We want to go back home. Ungrateful bastards. But it is messed up. Nobody should live in those conditions, period. But it's interesting that, again, black folks is already living here, and we ain't heard nothing about this before. Here's my thing. One of the things I said in one of my videos, I said I disagree with the educator, the dude who starts the schools up, Brother Steve Perry, is when he said that he doesn't support zip code education, whatever. And it's like he thinks people should be able to go to any school anywhere they want. And my only issue with that is, I think long-term game, right? I'm imagining if black folks ever got their ish together and created some type of kick-ass community, and they stopped doing what Yvette Carnell wants black folks to do, is wait on the government to fix their problems, and they actually start building together and networking and doing what these illegal immigrants who come over here and do. And instead of assimilating, they take their money, they practice group economics, they send their money back home instead of being consumers. If we did that, and we had this kick-ass community, we had our own schools, not government run, and all that stuff. And then, as you see in this video, where do you think these Syrian refugees got dumped? They're not going to go to white neighborhoods, they're going to go to ours. So now you have a school system that's like capital prep, where 100% graduate 2 years in a row. And then the government dumps off these Syrian refugees, which they do often. If you look around at a lot of black communities, they're not black communities. They look like the United Nations. It's a little bit of everybody there. And that's my point, is that no, we would not want them to be forced into our community or be forced to go to our schools. They're dealing with all types of issues, coming from war-torn countries, shell shock, post-traumatic stress, rape, molestation, all that. These kids got issues, right? Like, so that was one of the points that I was going to make in that video, is why I don't agree, because if that's the policy that anybody can just dump anybody anywhere, then that could happen to us too in the future. But that's my video. It's long enough. And I have 2 more coming, at least I know of. Don't know if I'm going to get them done before the election on Tuesday next week. One of the other ones is gun control, because that's against your interest to support Democrats on that issue. And the other one that I have a lot of information on is school choice and how black people vote against their own interests on that. But 95% of us will be voting Democrat. It is
Documented illegal immigrants who have been assigned to the position of commissioner. The Huntington Park City Council is being paid with taxpayers' money to do a job within rules and regulations. According to your board behind you, it says, where there is no vision, the people perish. I want to paraphrase that and say, where there is no law, the people perish. In the U.S., we have one rule of law. I also want to talk about the 14th Amendment, which was added to the Constitution in regards to blacks being given birthright citizenship because blacks helped build this country, including the White House twice. Please do not tarnish the name of black slaves by comparing them to your plight. There's no comparison, none. Black slaves did not break into this country, okay? They were brought here against their will. Also, black slaves are not immigrants. Immigrants are people with a choice. They come here by choice. Black slaves didn't have a choice. That's offensive to me because I'm a descendant of a black slave. And trust me, Ancestry.com's work, and I can trace my people back from when they landed here on the boat. I know the village where my people came from in Africa. Okay? So please, do not try to get away with using that. That's very offensive. This country has been good to illegal immigrants. You have been giving jobs, houses, tax money, free tax money, welfare, Social Security. They open up business for you guys, etc. I don't know of any illegal aliens who have been hung from a tree. I don't know any of them illegal aliens who have dogs been sick on. So that's very offensive for you to sit up here and allow these people to say that and get away with it, think that people are going to feel sorry for them. That's very offensive. Okay? Do the right thing. My people get 3 strikes. I have a nephew in jail now, 22 years for something he didn't do. My people commit a crime, they go to jail. Your people commit a crime, they get amnesty. It is wrong. It's called apartheid, and we're not going to have it. We're not going to have a set of laws for you people and a set of laws for us. And if you can't follow the law, talking about parish, your job needs to perish. You get paid with taxpayers' money, and you misappropriate taxpayers' money when you pick up your check.
Okay, I got one more, right? I got one more. It's a long video. This video is long enough. But in this clip right here, you see a situation happen in New York where the DREAM Act got denied, whatever, probably because it didn't have enough pork in it and Governor Cuomo didn't want to sign it. But the audacity of this, right? These are children of people who snuck in the country. They're not supposed to be here. And they're mad. They're protesting in the streets, particularly in Bronx, New York, because they didn't get a bill passed that would let them go to college for free. Some make the argument because they're here and they work, they pay taxes, they should be able to go. I think because they're here and they pay taxes, that's how they get to be here. But I understand it's still debatable. But think about this. They're fighting and protesting in the street because the state won't pay to go for them to college for free. Black folks is fighting in the march of the street so they can stop getting shot by cops. Think about that. They want free education. We want to not get shot or choked out or shot in the back for not paying child support or getting choked out for selling loose cigarettes or getting shot for reaching for our gun when you told us to give you some IDs. I don't know.
For bringing the bill to a vote before he had the necessary support.
State Klein, how
originally from California, but in New York, and this is a U.S., like this is a whole from coast to coast movement, and this shouldn't just be based on like little areas. It should just be like the bigger cities slowly going into other areas where the Dreamers aren't as represented.
That was Jocelyn Ramirez in Ambrosia, Guadalupe. Juan, what's happening here?
Well, there was a vote that occurred earlier this week. Actually, the DREAM Act, which would provide basically tuition assistance by the state to undocumented immigrant college students in the country, would affect about 8,000 currently. And the vote actually passed 30 to 29, but the rules of the New York State Senate, and this was in the Senate, require that you have to have 32 votes, a majority of the 63 sitting senators. And when they called the vote for the bill, they were well aware that the lone Republican who had said he would support the legislation had left Albany later in the morning, and this vote was held suddenly in the afternoon. So it was held knowing that there would not be the votes there, and that it was a sort of an agreement between this Jeff Klein, who shares power. There's a rump group or a breakaway group of Democrats that share power with Republicans in the state Senate, along with the Republicans. And the governor, unfortunately, Governor Cuomo, the Democrat, was pretty complicit in the entire thing, because the governor has not made any effort to get this bill passed. He made enormous efforts around the Marriage Equality Act. He made a big push around gun control. He recently has spoken out strongly around charter schools. These are the issues that he's made a priority, but he's said nothing about the DREAM Act, except that if the Senate and the Assembly pass it, he will sign it. So he hasn't used any of his own